Howdy, folks. We are going to talk about percentages today. And one of the things that a lot of people struggle with is understanding how to turn fractions into percentages, how to find the percentage of a number, how to find the percentage that was taken if you're given two numbers, that kind of stuff. So we're going to go over a lot of that different kind of stuff today. You're probably going to need a piece of paper. You're probably going to need a calculator, because a lot of the things that we do with percentages, we get weird weird decimal numbers, that kind of stuff. So a calculator is very useful. One of the things, the first thing that you're probably going to need to know how to do if you're doing percentages is you might be told that you need to identify a percentage that's given as a fraction. So like, let's say that you're given 13 out of or over 20, and you might be told, hey, identify this number as a percentage instead of a fraction. Well, that's real simple. All you got to do is, in your calculator, just divide 13 divided by 20. And so if we went into the calculator to 13 divided by 20, we would get 0.65. So this is equal to 0.65. But the problem is this, is that a percentage this is not a percentage. This is a decimal. Now, that's not to say that percentages can't have decimals in them. It's just that when you go from fraction to percentage, there's three stages. You start with a fraction, then it turns into a decimal, then it has to be turned into a percentage. And there's two ways. Well, really, it's just you're really only doing one thing to turn it into a percentage, but there's a couple ways to do it, or a couple ways to look at it. And so going from a fraction into a decimal, well, you just divide. Okay? So you just divide the top number minus the bottom number. But to go from a decimal to a percentage, what you're going to do is you have to multiply by 100. So you have to multiply by 100. So you have to take this number 0.65 and you have to multiply it by 100. Now, there's a couple ways to go about multiplying by 100. You could just, in your calculator, do 0.65 times 100, and if you do that, we got 0.65 already in here, and then we hit times 100 and we get 65. So that's equal to 65, and then you have to put the percentage symbol on it. So then we put, so then we say 65%, okay? Now, I'm not sure if you noticed this, but if we started with 0.65 and our answer became 65%, there's only two differences between this number and this number, or this expression and this expression. The first difference is that this one has a percentage symbol on it. The second difference is that this one has a decimal point in front of the 6, and this one does not have a decimal point in front of the 6. And that's because one way of thinking about how do I multiply by 100 is multiplying by 100 basically means moving the decimal point over two places. So this is actually 65 with a decimal point there, but when the decimal point is at the end of a number, we just don't write the decimal point. So this is 65%. All right. To give you an example, another example, let's say that I had 0.435. This is another decimal. If I were to multiply this number times 100, it would become 43.5. Basically, the decimal point is just being moved over two places, and so now it's 43.5. So 0.435 as a percentage is 43.5. Whoops, that's not a very good percentage symbol. 43.5%. Okay, so that's how you turn a fraction into a percentage. First, you have to divide the fraction, and it turns it into a decimal. Then you multiply the decimal by 100, and then put a percentage symbol on it, and it becomes a percentage. So that's how you turn a fraction into a percentage.